I'll keep going if you want me to.
Well, let's take a break, get a drink.
Yeah, I'm all right. I got one here.
Okay.
I mean, you tell me what you want me to do.
Well, let's keep going then. I think we got.
All right.
We got 30 minutes, basically 30 minutes.
All right.
Before I gotta go through that whole break.
Okay, fine. So we'll at least get through that. So let's see. We're at 90, 97. We're to the end of 97, almost. No. So I'm in. This was Veruca as well. So I'm home. I'm on. I'm getting retained by Veruca, half salary, which is great. And so we're going to start in Japan, and then we're going to Australia, right? Well, I get to Japan, and I get a call from one of my friends from GNR, who's now working for Aerosmith, and he's like, "Hey, we need a keyboard tech." All right.
Have you ever done keyboards?
Nope. And that's what I said. I'm like, I'm not a keyboard tech. He goes, "Mate, we just need somebody to kind of be the guy's friend." Because with Aerosmith, right, there's really not a keyboard player in the band. So he was the stage keyboard player and sang harmonies. And I guess that whatever, Steven was having a problem with him, and they just needed somebody like me that would come in and like reassure him and like wasn't afraid of Steven, or you know what I mean? Whatever. So I'm like, shit, okay. So it's more money, and it's longer. This Veruca thing's finishing up. So I call up management, who's Q Prime, and I talk to Tony D, and I'm like, "Hey, I gotta leave," and he's pissed. And I'm like, "Okay, but I'm gonna do it the right way." So I found a replacement tech. I had met the tech for this band Silverchair in Australia. He was doing some festivals in Chicago that we had done with Veruca earlier, and I call him up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm available." So I flew him from his home out to wherever they started in Australia, and then I also flew him home, right? And then they didn't have my flight, right? My flight, I got to fly home, but they, you know what I mean? So it didn't have any extra cash out of pocket for him other than just paying for him, right? I did it the right way. I didn't just go, because they had retained me and whatnot, and plus, like, I don't want to have a bad working relationship, right? So I did the right thing. So I left that, and I went to Aerosmith, and it worked out great, and I was working I'd worked with the drum tech on Guns earlier, and then I got along great with Brad's guitar tech and Tom's bass tech and Joe's guitar tech, and it was great. I'm so glad I did it, right? So we were doing sheds. It was the very end of summer, so we're doing sheds down south in the U.S., and then we went to Europe, and we did like promo shows, right? Like we did TV, did like German TV, and this was still a record that sold. This was the record that had that single Pink on it, right? So it was one of the last ones that had like a hit single, if you will, right? So we did that. And I remember we were in somewhere, and Steven thought that, I know what it was. Somehow his maracas didn't get packed, right? But because I had the keyboard rig, I had some in Russ's rig, the keyboard player, right? So I was like, "Here, dude, here you go." And like I got this whole thing about, it was great, and he had maracas, and on and on and on. I think he compared it to like coming home and having his panos ready to drive or something. I don't know. He got kind of elaborate with his stories sometimes. But at any rate, we get done from that. We come back, and we're doing arenas in the U.S., and we did a run. I want to say it was either at the end of that year or the beginning. I thought the beginning of the next year we went right to like Japan or whatever. But at any rate, we did a run like what I call the throughway run, right? So we did like Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, right? So Shell and Zach came out, right? And it was a blast. And Zach was running around, and everybody was, he was like working with the drum tech, Timmy, and all. I got photos of that at home. He's polishing cymbals with him, and so it was kind of really cool, right? And at any rate, we played Boston Garden the 30th and 31st of December, right? And so my family came out. Shell and Zach came out for that, of 97. Unfortunately, we find out the morning of loading in on the 30th that one of our carpenters committed suicide in his hotel room, right? So there's that whole darkness that goes with this whole thing. So we load in, we do the shows, and then New Year's Day, right, we have off, right? Well, Joe and Steven at that time had a restaurant together, a place called, I think it was Mere Blue or whatever, just outside of Boston, right? So everybody goes.
That's like their home, right?
What?
That area is like their home.
Yeah. So everybody goes to eat there. And man, it was so cool. Like they just took such great care of us. And it was, you know, everybody was there with their family and whatnot. Like my son Zach was playing with Joe's kids and, you know, and it was funny because like he sees Joe's Perry and he's with his son. He goes, "That's Joe Perry." He's like, "That's my dad." You know, kind of thing. So it was cool that vibe and having them out for that and whatnot. And then we went to Japan and, you know, they were massive over there then, like, you know, played the Tokyo Dome and Osaka Dome and Fukuoka Dome and, you know, multiple nights and everything. And I ended up leaving them to start back up with Garbage in '98, right? Because they were going out again, second record. So I left and went out to Madison and started, you know, band rehearsals and putting it all together. And we did some local shows there, and then we went to Europe and did festivals and like that. And then I get the call from Bill Ramey again. He's like, "Hey, well, we saw him. He was with Beasties, right? So he was doing Beastie Boys, and we were doing festivals together and all that." And he pulled me aside. He's like, "Look, man, we're going to go out in the U.S. We're going to go out in the round, and I really think that you should think about being a carpenter, because I think you have what it takes, and I'd like you to be a carpenter. I'd like you to be the head carpenter on this tour." Wow, okay. Never done that before, but sure, why not? So, and it was substantially more money than Garbage was paying me, and also, you know, again, it happens, right? You know, the vibe changed, right? So with a new record, there was like different people that I'd worked with had, like, you know, elevated their position or whatever. But boring story short, it's just I was trying to do too much because I wanted to try to do production and still be Steve's tech, and that was stupid because I couldn't do either one well, right? Because it's just what it was. So when that came along, it was like, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm going to step away from it, and I'm going to go do the Beasties thing, right? Which is one of the best moves I made. Not just because, okay, I got to work for the Beastie Boys, but I became a carp, right? And I finally stepped away from that like backline thing that I'd done most of my life. And Bill gave me that chance. And, you know, did really well with it, took to it. I mean, we went out, we did those tour of the US and around. And then we did Saturday Night Live, we did Chris Rock show. We played a show at Hammerstein Ballroom, and this was all around of Thanksgiving of '98. And Zach was, I want to say, in kindergarten, right? Well, we just pulled him out and brought him to New York with us, right? So he got to see like the way they were like building the Macy's Day Parade, because we were staying right by Macy's, right? So like we left like, what, Thanksgiving Day to go home or the day before. So like I think they were doing, like Backstreet was playing it. So there was like, they were doing rehearsals there. So I got to see all that. And then, you know, he was his similar precocious self at the show at the Hammerstein Ballroom. You know, like Mixmaster Mike, the DJ, is like, you know, at the barricade talking to people, and Zach just like walks up, and these girls are asking Zach for his autograph, and he's like stealing Mixmaster's Sharpie to sign autographs. Kind of, you know, nothing like being cock blocked by a 5-year-old, you know. So, yeah, it was just, you know, it was a good time, and those guys treated me real well and took care of me, and, you know, and I went on to do 2 more tours with them, to the 5 boroughs, and then the last one was the Mix-Up in '07. So I think I'm going to hold it there. I feel like I'm kind of talked out.
Okay.
I'm getting to that point of like,
Yeah.
you know, I've had enough for today.
So we're at 90.
We're up to 98, 99. You know, I'm sure there's stuff I'm forgetting in there about the Beasties and whatnot, because that was, unfortunately, we were in Australia, and that's when Mike's brother passed away unexpectedly, Mike Diamond. And
I feel bad, Phil, because you're mentioning shit that if I was a fanboy of this stuff, I'd be.
yeah.
And it's like, you're mentioning stuff that I just don't, I mean, it's just crazy.
I'm just trying to like remember. I mean, but there's like stuff in my phone that I'm like, I don't really want to bring that up, or
Right.
and I don't know, whatever. It's like, yeah, I think I'll just let that go, But then there's like stories I want to tell about, like the whole Alfredo getting drunk at Fuji Rock in 2007 with Lily Allen and like losing badly. And then that's where the term Licorice originated, at least for us. I'm sure somebody else came up with it, but that's where I heard it the first time, referring to Alfredo. But yeah, I mean, like the 98 tour was in the round, and it was kind of weird because like Rancid was a support act, and I liked Rancid, but
This is the Beasties.
This is the Beasties, because not only was it Rancid, but it was also a Tribe Called Quest, was supporting. But it sucks as a support act, because if you're playing in the round, as a support act, you can only play like one way. So which way do you decide to play, right? Because with the Beasties, the stage would move, right? Tribe Called Quest, it was okay because they're hip hop, so they can all run around. But with Rancid, you got like a hard position of like amps and drums. What do you do? So it was kind of fucked up for them. But yeah, we did that, and then like I said, we did those shows there, and it was like we kind of didn't do a lot in 98. We started off strong, and then it like petered a little bit, and then we went to Australia, and Mike lost his brother, so we came home from that, and then we went to Europe and went back out in the round in Europe, and then I left to go to Tom Petty. This was now 99, to help Bill start Tom Petty, again with Bill Ramey, because he had to go back to Australia to make up all those Australian dates with the fellas. And then once he was done with that, then he came to Tom Petty, and then we did Tom Petty the summer of 99. And then interestingly enough, Garbage at the end of 99 was out on the MTV Campus Invasion tour with Lit. And I actually went back, Bill was production manager for it, and I went back and stage managed it. So I ended up at the end of the 2.0 tour going back to work with Garbage. So it was just, weird. But,
Crazy.
yeah.
Crazy life, Phil Danman.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's weird, like trying to recall it all and whatnot.
What goes through your head, though, when you look back on all the water under the bridge? I mean, what?
I don't know, it's like, it's kind of like, I have to like go, did I really do that shit? Did I really do that shit? Was I really there, I mean, again, Alan, I worked for bands at like pivotal moments in music, like the grunge thing, and then like, GNR, and, even Pumpkins to some extent, and like, God, I've worked for like old stalwarts like REO Speedwagon and Aerosmith, and I got to work for the Beastie Boys, and like but it's all, like I said, it's all more luck than judgment, right? I mean, I don't know. There was no plan, and it wasn't like I was going and soliciting gigs. Like, I guess I was good enough so people would call me and be like, yeah, we'll bring him in because we'll get the job done, I mean, that's all I could think, because I wasn't really like I was soliciting gigs. I would get calls and go, so.
Great. All right, that's a wrap for today.
Oh.
I'm not going to wrap everything. It'll leave
Leave it out, dude. Don't worry about it. Leave it all out. I'm fine, whatever you want to do.
I'll make sure we can sit